What's going on, everybody? I definitely hope all is well. Do apologize for the noise in the background. I do have my space heater going in my office right now. I don't want to turn on the main heat in the house, so I do have the space heater running. So I do apologize for that noise in the background. The reason why I have it on is because it is 25 degrees in the region here. So in the Pennsylvania region here, it's definitely pretty cold. But just wanted to come on here and share some information with you. Definitely some very interesting information. So let's actually take a look at that. It's pretty cool. All right, so what we got going on here is definitely pretty interesting. This is one of the rarest weather events to ever take place on this planet that we call home. I'm talking about an event that is known as a sudden stratospheric warming event. These events are rare, on the order of occurring about 5 or 6 times per 10 years. So every decade. So only about 5 or 6 times every decade. So it's definitely pretty interesting. So what does this scary term actually mean, folks? Well, before we delve into this, we need to have a basic understanding of how the atmosphere of the Earth works here. So let's take a look at this. During the colder months, the Earth's northern pole develops a quasi-persistent low-pressure system situated over the pole itself. This quasi-persistent low-pressure system is known as the polar vortex. As we all know very well, this disturbed area receives a plethora of attention within the winter months across North America. Across the nation, many meteorologists use the polar vortex to represent an area where cold Arctic air originates and the mechanism of how this cold air propagates southward. So it's definitely pretty cool. So the polar vortex exists in our portion of the atmosphere, which is known as the troposphere, and it can also extend into the stratosphere. Let's rewind that a little bit, folks. So the troposphere is the layer of Earth's atmosphere where 99.9% of weather occurs. For example, the troposphere contains clouds and the jet stream. This is basically where planes fly as well. And the layer just above the troposphere is known as the stratosphere. The stratosphere is a region of Earth's atmosphere where air is relatively stable. The stratosphere acts as a cap, if you will, dictating on how high clouds can form and how high the jet stream can flow. So it's definitely pretty interesting to talk about that for sure. So the polar vortex allows westerlies to flow around the North Pole region, as well as building cold air into place. When the polar vortex is stronger, it is able to keep the cold air locked in place near the pole. However, if the polar vortex is disturbed, it can wobble off the pole and break into smaller pieces, which sends smaller vortices further south all around the world. So just to show that here, folks, and just to reiterate that, so the polar vortex allows westerlies to flow around the North Pole region, as well as building cold air into place. When the polar vortex is stronger, it is able to keep the cold air locked into place near the pole. And if the polar vortex is disturbed, it can wobble off the pole or break into smaller pieces, which sends smaller vortices further south all around the world. So you can definitely see that here. You can definitely see the buckles in the jet stream there, so it's definitely pretty interesting. But yeah, basically when this strong jet stream is basically sort of zonal here, so from west to east, and not really a north to south orientation here, you can see that cold air is definitely contained within the polar vortex. This is a stable polar vortex situation here. As the warm air moves north, though, you get these buckles in the jet stream here, and this is when the cold air moves to the south, bringing a lot of that interesting weather. This is known as a wavy polar vortex. So basically, let's talk about this a little bit. So let's take a more at-home, simpler example. We can think of the polar vortex like the drain in your kitchen sink. If you fill the sink with water with the drain plugged and then pull the plug out, a vortex develops and begins to transport water from the surface down through the pipe there. You can disturb this vortex by placing your hand in the water and moving it through the vortex. As you do this, you may observe the vortex break into smaller pieces, if you will, or the vortex may be pushed away from the drain, resulting in the drain to not operate properly. This is basically how the polar vortex operates in the winter months here in North America. So high pressure systems can often form blocking patterns which impinge upon this vortex, thus moving it around the northern hemisphere. Sometimes these impinging high pressure systems can split into pieces, or the entire polar vortex can be pushed off from over the North Pole region into Siberia, down into Canada, across the coastal western regions of the United States, or even into Europe. So you can definitely see how interesting and how catastrophic these events can definitely take shape for sure. It's definitely not a good situation when the polar vortex does come down into a more wavy pattern, and it does start to affect regions, Canada, United States, possibly even all the way down to Mexico, like we had right around Christmas. That was definitely a crazy pattern that we had. It can also affect Europe as well, so it's definitely not a good thing, especially into the more populated areas. You can definitely see how crazy this situation can get, but it's definitely pretty crazy for sure. Now let's go back to the vortex in the drain here. So going back to our drain in the kitchen sink, if you replace the drain plug, the vortex will shut down, which isn't a perfect analogy until the end of winter, of course. However, putting the drain plug directly over where the vortex is taking water from the surface and transporting it down towards the drain, the same disruptions as putting your hand into the water through the vortex can take shape. So we have vortex breakdown of the systems. It's basically like waves crashing on a beach. So now the vortex in the stratosphere, which is above the troposphere, is maintained very well by waves traversing the North Pole. If waves break, similar to waves on the beach, the vortex will begin to break down from above, eventually pushing down to the surface like the plug in a drain. So it's definitely pretty interesting. We can detect this by investigating the temperature anomalies within the stratosphere. If temperatures rise very rapidly, waves begin to break and the vortex breaks down. And this is what is known as the sudden stratospheric warming event, which we actually have going on right now. And so we know that's a major disruption in warming is coming from the polar vortex, but where do these warming waves suddenly come from? Usually it's from the direct influence of strong low pressure systems, or pressure systems that having an impact upwards into the stratosphere. Pairs of pressure systems, also known as Rossby waves, a pair of strong high and low pressure systems, deflect energy upwards into the stratosphere as they break. That energy can deform the polar vortex, temporarily pausing its strengthening or weakening its circulation. So it's definitely pretty crazy. You can definitely see a Rossby wave breaking here. We actually have this pattern coming up as well, so we'll definitely take a look at that. So recent model data suggests that this event is taking place, or has taken place, so roughly 15 to 20 miles above Earth's surface, higher than where most planes fly. A sharp upward spike in temperature can be seen. However, in our case, the breakdown process will not be immediately seen or felt. Much like larger scale systems, the rate of decay is relatively slow, taking 3 to 8 weeks to reach the surface and affect us surface dwellers here. So it's definitely pretty interesting. Thus, by utilizing this, we'll begin to see major disruptions in the polar vortex by March, which is a little too far out in the future to be absolute, especially given a couple weeks here. But we'll definitely take a look at the interesting high pressure system developing here. Let me actually pull this up where we can actually see this properly here. Alright, there we go. So let's take a look at this rare high pressure system down here off the coast of Florida here, and overtaking much of the area here. It's definitely pretty crazy to see. So right down in here in the Gulf of Mexico and across the Florida peninsula here, we can see this rare high pressure zone developing down by Florida, and it's definitely pretty crazy. And then you can see this massive pulse of cold air coming down as well. If we step this forward, there we go. There's that massive pulse of cold air with this crazy rare high pressure system developing down here. So this is definitely going to set off a major temperature gradient along with some record heat as well. We're definitely going to have some record heat down here in Florida and possibly over here into Texas. So we'll definitely take a look at this for sure. As we step forward into Thursday here, we can definitely see this ridge definitely starts to build up to the east and to the southeast as well. So it's definitely pretty interesting, as we can see. And our first polar lobe actually starts to come down here. So you can see how strong that is. It looks just like the image before. Let me pull that back up here just to show you guys. So it basically looks like Rossby wave breakdown here. So you can see this image here. Now let me take this back off the screen, put this back up. This almost looks identical to that image that we have here. So right here over across California and across portions of the Rockies here, but we can definitely see that. So it's not good. So this is definitely going to start propagating down to the south. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, this will be over the next 6 to 8 week time span that this setup will be coming in. It's going to push in. It's definitely going to come in as waves or pulses, and we could definitely have some interesting severe weather outbreaks down to the south as well. So that's definitely not good. Let's actually go into next week's temperatures. We could definitely see some interesting data coming on the screen here for sure. But take a look at this. You can see some of these colder temperatures actually starting to come down. These are single-digit temperatures up into North Dakota, stretching into Minnesota, down through South Dakota as well. We do have this warm push of air we can see right here along the Texas-Mexico border, right here in the Rio Grande Valley. We have about 90 degrees on Tuesday for the high temperatures. That's definitely interesting to see for sure. And just to reiterate, these are actually high temperatures up here. We can actually switch this to the low temperatures, where we can see temperatures dipping well below zero, especially here in North Dakota and Minnesota, with areas dipping between about -4 to -10 degrees. That's definitely not a good thing. Let's go back to the maximum temperatures here. We can even see down here that high pressure system definitely starting to build here across Florida. We got 80s definitely stretching from Miami to about Orlando here, and up to the north we got about 70s. But it's definitely interesting to see here. Let's actually go into Wednesday. Let me skip forward a little bit here. You can definitely see that high pressure zone definitely getting its influence here. And you can see that cold air, very, very sharp cold air coming down from the north. You can see this temperature gradient. We're looking at 93 degrees down here for the high down in southern Texas, and around 82 to 85 degrees down here in southern Florida. You can definitely see there's temperature swings here from the north to the south of over 100 degrees. So it's definitely a very, very sharp temperature gradient definitely developing here. We're going to have to watch this as the system comes through. And unfortunately, there may be an icing setup, possibly I'm going to set up here into the Great Lakes. We'll definitely take a look at that in a little bit. Take a look at these minimum temperatures here, folks. We can see South Dakota coming down into Montana. We're looking at negative temperatures here, possibly even -15 degrees in North Dakota as well as Minnesota as well. But you can see temperatures don't decrease very much down here through the deep south and the Tennessee, Mississippi valleys here, where temperatures go into the mid to upper 60s, down into the lower to mid 70s as well. Let's actually step forward. Let's take it back to maximum temperature here. We're going to go back. Now we're going to go to Thursday, where you can see some of these areas. You can see these cold air coming to the south a little bit more. Let's actually go back to one day. You can see that coming down for sure. You can see this temperature gradient here. You can also see the warm sector pushing up to the north as well, with this little kink into the temperature gradient here across Oklahoma into Missouri, Illinois as well. So definitely pretty interesting. Still see South Texas in the upper 80s, possibly into the lower 90s here. You can also see Florida here pushing into the mid to upper 80s as well. You can see that high pressure system definitely building up to the north. Even here in the Pittsburgh area, we're going to look at a high of 66. This is definitely pretty strong. Let's actually go to the minimum temperatures here. We can see temperatures are possibly down to -10 here in Nebraska, and even down into the mid to upper 20s here into portions of Texas Panhandle, and even Oklahoma getting into 18 to 25 degrees. Southeastern Oklahoma getting into 37 for the minimum temperature. So definitely pretty cold for this time of year. You can see that front definitely pushing through. It's definitely creating that gradient. We drop about 20 degrees here in Pittsburgh area from day to night. So it's definitely pretty interesting. Even South Texas down to the 60s for lows. But you can definitely see here in California, definitely getting hit by some of those 20s and 30 degree temperatures here. So definitely not a good situation developing. But some of these temperatures here, you can see -20, even -14, possibly right in here. We could possibly see even -15. So it's definitely not good. Let's actually step into Friday. So that's definitely interesting to see for sure. But you can see that high pressure system still continuing to build. That temperature definitely pushing to the south a little bit here. It definitely looks like Oklahoma gets into high temperatures ranging between in the 40s and to the upper 50s as well. Texas, South Texas here, definitely down up into the 80s. But you can see just from Texas, southern Texas to northern Texas here, we have about a 38 to 40 degree temperature difference. So that's pretty strong. And even from North Dakota on down to the south here, we have an 88 degree temperature difference, possibly even into the 90 degree temperature difference. You can definitely see how sharp and strong that temperature gradient is. So definitely not a good sign of things to come for sure. But we'll definitely keep taking a look at this. Let's take a look at these minimum temperatures as well. minus 18 in North Dakota here, stretching all the way down into portions of the northern Oklahoma here. Could possibly get down into the teens for low temperatures on Friday. It's definitely not good. And as you move to the north in Kansas, Nebraska, heading up into South Dakota, North Dakota, you can see those teens and below zero temperatures coming in, getting down into the lower 30s here in the Pittsburgh area, even down into 20s and 30s in California, especially here in the Sierra Nevadas, where we can possibly see temperatures going down in the single digits. We're going to have to watch this very carefully. So it's definitely pretty interesting. I definitely want to show you guys a little bit more information here. Let me pull this up rather quickly. Alright, so let's actually take this forward here. So we can actually go into 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Let me actually get the latest model data here so that way we're up to date. Just to show you guys. So let's go 7 a.m. You definitely see that low pressure system heading to the north, even to Canada, definitely affecting portions maybe into northern Michigan here. We'll definitely see that. Much of the country, though, definitely not experiencing much in the way of weather. Unfortunately, we do have some snow developing down here into northern Mexico and even into western Texas and into southern New Mexico as well. It's definitely pretty interesting. We have that snow going up over that ridge here, heading into the British Columbia province here, into Canada. Even some rain heading into Seattle as well. And a little bit of rain across the Baja Peninsula here. A little bit of rain down towards southern Mexico. It looks like that system to the northeast is ejecting off. So it definitely doesn't look like it is affecting much of the weather here. Maybe some light rain showers, drizzle here across portions of eastern Florida. Definitely keep an eye out on this. If we step through the day tomorrow, go around lunchtime, you can definitely see this system here. There's a little kink in the jet stream here, definitely dipping down into the Rockies. However, we do have that snow setting off across New Mexico here, down into Mexico, as well as into western Texas. So even the El Paso area may see a little bit of snow. So it's definitely interesting to see snow that far south. Let's actually go into the evening hours, 7 p.m. Does look like all that snow does clear out down here into the south. Definitely a little bit of rain still popping up across Mexico and even into Texas here. So nothing really much in the way of precipitation occurring across the United States, except here into the upper Rockies here, into the Idaho region, Montana as well. Good bit of heavy snow here into north central Idaho. We do have that bit of energy coming here, as you can see, down towards the Baja Peninsula. Let's step this forward into Sunday. We'll go to 7 a.m. It definitely looks like a pretty good day across much of the United States at this point. We do have a little bit of rain showers developing here across central Illinois and even into Indiana. Oklahoma, you guys are looking pretty good. Texas as well, except down towards the southeast of the El Paso area, where we can see a little bit of light rain. We definitely see that snow developing across the Rockies, as well as into the Canadian provinces up here. Even into northern Minnesota could definitely get hit by some light snow as well. Possibly down in the Florida Keys, get some light rain. Miami would definitely see a little bit of light rain as well. Step into lunchtime on Sunday. You can see that rain definitely developing once again across the Mexican plateau here. Even into Texas, stretching into central Texas. You have that rain ejecting off to the east here, heading into southern Ohio here, and even down into portions of South Carolina, definitely seeing some rain. You could definitely see this buckle in the jet stream here, as you can see this cold air definitely plunging to the south here, into Utah, down into portions of Colorado as well. Even into portions of northern Kansas can definitely see some colder temperatures here. Definitely not good. Let's actually step this forward into Sunday night. A little bit of moderate rain developing here in northern Mexico. That system up to the north is ejecting off to the northeast, definitely hitting provinces of Quebec and Ontario here. We have a little bit of a light rain in the Pittsburgh area for 7 p.m. on Sunday, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But Pacific Northwest definitely getting hit with another system. Looks like this bit of energy that's associated with that first plunge down to the south that we're going to have to watch. A lot of snow definitely developing across the Rockies here as well. Let's move into Monday morning. Definitely see that rain definitely plaguing some of the same areas down here through the northern Mexican plateau here, down into southern and central New Mexico, and even into western Texas. And then a little bit of rain coming in, possibly for the Rio Grande Valley. I really don't want to say that it's going to really amount to anything down there. They haven't seen rain in quite a while, but it definitely is possible. This is pretty far out. This is Monday the 20th, so we're going to have to keep an eye out on this. This could definitely be an interesting situation. Let's step forward into Monday evening. We have a little bit of a clipper system coming through portions of Wisconsin here, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota here as well, eventually moving into Michigan. So then we have that little bit of energy down to the south as well, with some heavier rain developing across North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, down into Kentucky and Tennessee as well. A little bit of rain heading into central Louisiana, into eastern Texas. Nothing really much in terms of severe weather at this point. So that's good news, except maybe there might be a slight chance here, a small chance here, Tuesday morning, February 21st, down through, we can see Arkansas here, central Arkansas into Mississippi. Definitely looks like there could be an icing situation developing here. We're going to have to go back to, we can go to the, we'll go back one model run here just to show you guys what's going on. We step this forward, this is where it gets a little bit concerning here. So this is on February 22nd at 10 p.m. You can see that ice stretching all the way from, let me go back, from Nebraska, Kansas, all the way up through much of the Midwest into the Great Lakes. The Pittsburgh area is going to have to watch this very carefully as well. As we step this forward, definitely looks like a major icing situation for New York, portions of northern Pennsylvania, all the way over into the Northeast as well. Even through Iowa, Wisconsin, up through Michigan, you can definitely see a lot of this ice that we're going to have to watch out for. And unfortunately, it definitely looks like another system comes in through the 25th. So it's definitely not a good situation for sure. But Thursday is definitely when that first cold air snap with the sudden stratospheric warming event definitely taking place. You can definitely see how much this is going to lag behind. So this is on Thursday next week. So definitely pretty interesting. We do have a couple days before this before we can say this is actually going to happen or not. But model data is definitely, the confidence is increasing for an ice storm. Pretty catastrophic one at that. Stretching across the Midwest up into the Northeast as well, into the Great Lakes. We're going to have to watch this very carefully. Let's actually take a look at the precipitation values here. I'm actually very curious to see what kind of snowfall we're looking at here. So yeah, you can definitely see the bullseye here happening across Minnesota. You could possibly see about 20 inches of snowfall there. But take this with a grain of salt, as this is very far out. This is all the way until Friday the 24th. Thursday the 23rd at 7 p.m. So we're going to have to watch this as the system does come in. A little bit of light snow accumulations down here, the southwestern Pennsylvania area, and going down into the Appalachian Mountains, down at the Smoky Mountains as well. But you can definitely see that corridor of snow definitely taking shape there. Let's actually see how much ice is going to fall here. Let's take a look at the freezing rain total. But this is definitely what we're going to have to watch for sure. Let's actually step this forward all the way out. So we will go all the way to the 27th, so 7 a.m. We could possibly see between 1/4 inch and up to an inch of icing accumulations across portions of Nebraska here, all the way up through Iowa, northern Illinois as well, southern Wisconsin, down through across Michigan, and across Lake Erie as well, down into the mountainous terrain here, southwestern and central Pennsylvania, even up through New York as well. We're going to have to keep an eye out on this, even down here into Texas as well, and New Mexico. We're going to have to watch some of that icing. But definitely appreciate you guys joining me for this video. If you have not done so yet and you like the content we are putting out, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Definitely hit that like button. Definitely leave us a comment down below. We definitely love hearing from you guys. Definitely share this information out there to those that need it the most. We definitely appreciate it. We have 2,112 subscribers on the channel, so definitely shout out to each and every one of you guys. You guys have basically giving us, Justin and I, the best jobs in the world. We definitely appreciate it. We definitely love broadcasting weather. We kind of been MIA for a little bit. Work has been driving us both nuts, unfortunately. But I'm definitely going to try to get on here definitely more often. But I definitely appreciate you guys. But yeah, it's definitely pretty interesting. I'm working on getting a new desktop. I'm definitely working on getting a faster computer for the actual presentations. I definitely want to start using the green screen and actually showing our faces on camera as well. But I can't do that with this computer that I have now. It seems to freeze a lot when I try to do that. But I am working on getting a new desktop, so I definitely Definitely look forward to that. But all right, guys, definitely appreciate you joining me in this video. Always remember, never stop chasing.